Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks. Today coming to you from Valladolid. That's right, Valladolid, one of the more difficult Spanish cities to pronounce, and it is the capital of the Castilla and Leon region. And we're going to have a look around the city and see if this is a good city from a quality of life point of view. Should you be planning on visiting Spain for a while, or planning to live in a city like this here in Spain? So let's go and check it out. Now, as I said, this is the capital of Castilla and Leon, and it's a regional capital, an autonomous community capital. Remember that Spain is divided into 17 autonomous communities, and this is one of them, Castilla y Leon. And of course, Valladolid being the capital of that city, 300,000 people and a very manageable city. Now, this is another city that I am so far impressed with because of the quality of life that a place like this can offer. You've got the historical aspect, you've got fantastic monumental buildings all over the place, you've got great regional cuisine. We're in one of Spain's premier wine regions, that being the Ribera del Duero region for red wines and white wines, and this is a wonderful city. I say that a lot about cities in Spain, but this is a city that has so far impressed me because of the quality of life that I see people here have. It's a city that doesn't seem to have any stress, and people live very, very well in this part of the world. And of course, it's also a city with a lot of culture, and we can see here that they are celebrating the bicentenary of the birth of José Zorrilla, who was one of Spain's premier poets back in the day. I think he was born in Valladolid. Now, the key to these cities is just how easy it is to get around, whether it's on foot, whether it's by bike, whether you decide to take public transport, whether you decide to get around by taxi, whether you have a car. You can get around cities like Valladolid really, really easily. Seems to be a fairly flat city, which is definitely a pro. Haven't seen too many people riding bikes, which is a bit of a shame, but I suppose that's got something to do with the weather. And I'll explain a little bit more about the weather in a minute or two, but as we can see, fairly flat around the place. Right, so there is a bike scheme, but just haven't seen too many people riding bikes. A couple more bikes parked over there, so it is a legitimate way to get around the city. And as I said, because it seems fairly flat, I reckon it is probably one of the best choices. And I've also noticed that it is a cheap city as well. Cheap when it comes to eating and drinking, and I'm sure that your living costs here would also be a lot less than in other bigger cities. Now, as I mentioned previously, one of the problems that I see with a city like this is the weather. There's a Spanish saying which is 9 months of winter and 3 months of hell. And this is one of the cities that definitely lives up to that saying. The summers here are hot, the winters are extremely cold. And it doesn't snow much in this part of the world, it's just cold. It'll be damp as well because you've got a river running through the city as well, which we'll take a look at in a while. And that is one of the reasons that this would be a damp, cold, humid city in the middle of December, January, February. So keep that in mind. And because it is the capital of this autonomous community, you have all the services that you need. You don't need to go anywhere to get things done. It's got an airport, so you can get around. It's got the fast train, the Spanish fast train system, which is the AVE system. You can catch AVEs here. You can go to Madrid very easily. Well connected to Madrid. Well connected by road as well to Madrid. So definite pros from that point of view. Now remember that this is in the middle of Castilla y Leon, the birthplace of the Castellano language, the Spanish language if you like, here known as Castellano. Remember that in Spain there are 4 languages officially. There are more, of course, but recognized by the constitution there are 4 languages. And this is the home of Castellano. So if you're looking to come to Spain and learn Spanish and you want to learn it in the most pure form, this would be the place to come, in my opinion, or somewhere in the area. Now you're probably asking yourself why it's so quiet. You can see that there are not too many people on the street behind me. There's nobody to the front of me either, but it is 3:30 on a Sunday afternoon, so that's the reason why the streets are so quiet. But I imagine that in the morning or later this afternoon, this is going to be a real hive of activity. I'm also not in the main tourist area here. This is very residential, this part of the city, so that's another reason why it is particularly quiet. And that's what Spanish people think of their politicians. They should be thrown on a bonfire. Now, one thing I have noticed since I've been here is that people seem to be quite religious, or at least that's the impression that I have got. There were a couple of processions moving through the streets this morning, and I know that at Easter time this is one of the areas in Spain that really turns it on for the Semana Santa week from a procession point of view, so quite traditional in that sense still. Now I'm on my way to something that looks like a beach, and believe it or not, Valladolid seems to have a beach. It does have a prominent river running through the middle of it, and this morning I saw lots of activity around the river and on the river as well. People on kayaks and canoes, a lot of birds in the river as well, and a lot of people walking dogs, doing exercise. So we'll go down and check out this beach part of Valladolid right now. So there we go, the beach here in Valladolid. You can see here that it is apt for swimming. You can swim if you want. The birds are the only thing swimming today, but there are a few people on the beach, so looks fairly good. And as I said, you would need it in the summertime because it can get hot in a city like this. So come down here and take a dip, but I imagine that it is also crowded in the summer. And behind me here we have a Chiringuito Valladolid style, fairly flash looking place, a bar restaurant with a nice terrace that you can have a drink or two on a hot summer's evening. Now you can see over here that there are some people on the beach still, trying to get those last rays of sun before the cold winter takes over this city. And as I said, it's going to be 9 months of a cold winter before people can get back on the beach and get a bit of sun on their bodies. So they're taking advantage of those last sun rays. Of course, being a landlocked city, a place where you can take a dip is obviously an absolute pro, because you are about 2.5 hours away from the nearest beach from here. I think the closest coast would be Santander, Cantabria, or maybe Asturias. But if you wanted to go to the Levante coast, if you wanted to go to Valencia or one of those places, Castilian, bit of a hike. Now, the big question, could you work in a city like this and have a reasonable quality of life? The answer to that, I think, is yes. Obviously, if you're looking to get into the main economy here in Spain, that would be difficult. Not a lot of jobs in this place. A lot of people depend on one or two particular companies. I think there's a big car manufacturer here, and there's also a few other regional or local businesses, but not a lot from that point of view. But you could teach English. This is a place where people want to learn the language, and there are language schools in Valladolid, so you could work here. And as I said before, the quality of life in a city like this is second to none if you don't mind a little bit of cold weather in winter. And this is a great walk along the Pisuerga River, the river that divides Valladolid in two. A really pleasant stroll along this part of the world. Another thing I like about Valladolid is it's also a clean city. I haven't seen any dog excrement on the pavement yet, although you do have some of the problems that you have in other Spanish cities. There was a bit of a botellón effect this morning, and a few other little bits of rubbish lying around, but it seems to be fairly clean in general. And here's another thing that's blown me away about this city, this fantastic park that I've just wandered into now. You've got squirrels running around the place. You've got peacocks roaming the paths as well. Absolutely marvellous park in the centre of Valladolid. So Valladolid being connected to the high-speed rail network here in Spain is a game changer. And this is what sets it apart from other cities, that you've got those good connections with other cities. You can be in the capital really, really quickly. One thing I've noticed is that people in this part of the world are really well dressed. They like to dress up whenever they go out into the street. The ladies like to put the makeup on, the men like to dress up as well, and that's something that you'll notice when you're out walking the streets here, just how well people are dressed, but nothing wrong with that. Okay, so I'll wrap this video up now from Valladolid. If you are looking for a small, manageable city, 300,000 people in the heart of Spain, where people supposedly speak the clearest Spanish or Castilian Spanish in Spain, this is the place for you. Well connected, airport, train station, well connected by a road, great food, great wine. What more can you ask for? I highly recommend this city from a quality of living point of view. The downside, of course, is going to be the weather. Hot in summer, but we saw that there's a beach, and freezing cold in winter, so bring a coat, gloves and scarf. But apart from that, it is a great city. Questions or comments, please leave them in the section below. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.